Hey, Clemson family, the men's basketball team missed the NCAA tournament, as we know, and then got bounced in a first-round NIT game at home. We'll talk about the intention for Brad Brownell to coach the team again next year.
I'm Daniel Shirley. That's going to be some fun thoughts from me on that, but we'll also talk about the receivers with the football team as we go through spring practice and take a look at the baseball team as well.
I'm Bill Zimmerman. Welcome to everyone joining us on youtube.com/Clemson Kickoff and on the major podcast apps for episode 68 of the Reign Supreme Alway podcast. Subscribe and follow the show wherever you're listening. Hey, be sure to follow us on social media too, at Clemson Kickoff on Twitter and on Instagram. We can keep you up on things there between episodes. Well, let's go ahead and get into basketball. Clemson does retain men's coach Brad Brownell. Then he loses a first-round game to a low-ranked team in the NIT, even after leading by as many as 15 points. They lose to Morehead State 68-64 and finish the season at 23-11.
Bill, I think it's one of the worst losses we've ever seen in Clemson history. And I think, for people our age, we've seen a lot of losses from Clemson basketball. But I can't remember a time where they've had as disappointing a loss as this. Even when they had bad teams, even when they've had heartbreaking losses. I mean, the loss to UConn, obviously, in the NCAA tournament is the one that jumps out. But that team had a great year, got beat by just a great shot, and, felt like, okay, the program was in pretty good shape right then. This program right now feels like it's in shambles to me. And I get people are going to say, oh, Daniel, you're overreacting. They won 23 games. They won 14 games in the ACC. They had a great year. Well, go look back and see who they beat. And, I know that there's all the talk about this was close to being an NCAA tournament team. Well, if you look at the NCAA committee, they weren't close to being an NCAA tournament team. They were 72nd. So there were 3 teams ahead of them as far as getting into that field that would have been bumped if somebody else got knocked out. So it's just a depressing loss right now. And there's really no reason, in my mind anyway, to be excited about next season.
And that was one of the things about taking the NIT bid, right? Was get some younger guys some playing time, build a little momentum going into next year, going into the offseason. That doesn't happen by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not sure why the timing was to go ahead and make that decision before the NIT. And then even in a first-round game, even when the shooters go cold, you're not seeing those younger players getting on the court. And you even see one of those guys going ahead and hitting the transfer portal already in guard Chauncey Gibson, who had redshirted this year. Not to mention, before the season, the rumored ultimatum was get to the big dance or pack the moving vans. There was moderate improvement, and if that counts, and if, you should have gotten in, a lot of people think is going to count for meeting that standard, I think that standard's pretty disappointingly low. And snubbed or not, they just never should have lost to Louisville. Other games that they never should have lost, including Morehead State after the decision not to have Clemson in the tournament. So do better. Leave no doubt. Win one of those games, Louisville, South Carolina, pick another one, you probably are in the NCAA tournament. He had the opportunity. He's had the opportunity for 13 years. He's only made the tournament 3 times, and one of those was with the team that he inherited from his predecessor, Oliver Purnell.
And the thing about the Purnell years, Bill, was they were exciting. They were fun to watch. They had an identity. You could tell that they knew what they wanted to get done. They were fast on defense. They were physical. They were athletic. This program has no identity right now. And the identity, I think this season has become just jack up a bunch of threes. And again, in the loss to Morehead State, they were 6 of 28 from 3. And then your best player, PJ Hall, gets 9 shots. 9 shots. When they are dominating in the paint, I'll say it again, 9 shots. Hunter Tyson took 12 shots. Chase Hunter took 11. Brevin Galloway took 11. Brevin Galloway took 10 3-pointers alone. So it's just amazing to me that jack up threes has become what this team is about when you've got a dominant player on the inside in PJ Hall. And so I heard this morning people saying, well, Brad Brownell didn't take those shots. Well, then call a timeout, take them out of the game, and get somebody in the game who will throw the ball to PJ Hall instead of PJ Hall not being utilized. It's a lot like we talked about with the football team. Why wasn't Will Shipley getting the ball? Why wasn't Phil Maffa getting the ball? And how many times did we hear Brandon Streeter say, well, 2020, yeah, I should have given them the ball. It doesn't take it that many times to figure it out. PJ Hall's your best player. Get him the ball. They didn't do it, and now they're not playing anymore because of that.
Like you said, 6 of 28 from three-point distance, 25 of 61 from the floor overall. Where's the game plan when you're not shooting? You know, there aren't enough guys to just, okay, try the next guy, see if he can shoot. Try the next guy, see if he can shoot. When you have players who are redshirting, you're not going with depth. You'd better have a plan B in your game plan for when your shooting goes cold, pure and simple. Why is the shooting cold in your home arena? Well, you know, there's bad nights. Have another approach to try to win the game. You know who had other approaches and had to build a winner over a 7-year span, I believe it was Oliver Purnell, 138 and 88 over the course of his time at Clemson. Brad Brownell's got twice that number of losses at 176, does not have close to double the wins at 241. He'd have to go undefeated next year to even come close to hitting that mark. I don't see that happening. I don't think you do either. To me, we just know what Brownell's ceiling is. 2 NCAA tournament appearances over his last 12 years. The third one coming, like I said, the year he took over for Purnell. And now ending what had been a promising season that looked like it had some improvement with a distant loss to Virginia and a disappointing loss to, of all teams, Morehead State. And it would appear now that you're stuck with Brownell based on the press conference that took place with him and athletic director Graham Neff. It's hard to reverse that decision and look like a strong leader of an athletic program. I expect to see Brad Brownell back next year. How do you improve? Do you work the transfer portal? Do you bring in more talent than you had? When one of the compliments for this team was that it was built with homegrown guys and not through the portal?
I don't know how you improve next year. I really don't. I mean, you've got an all-ACC player who's gone in Hunter Tyson. You've got one of your other starters who's gone in Brevin Galloway. I don't think they're going to go in the portal and get players better than them. They only have one signee in this class, and Brad Brownell mentioned last night, it didn't sound like they were going to go get any more. He just mentioned, hey, we've got the one signee for next year. So you're not going out and getting a bunch of new high school players. Bill, it just feels like this program is stuck. And this was the perfect time to maybe get a fresh start. Maybe it's a both sides see it, and hey, it's time to move on. And hey, Brad, maybe you just want to step down and kind of save face a little bit, then do that. We're okay with that. I like a lot of the things that Graham Neff has done since he's been the AD. I like the baseball hire. I liked him getting rid of Monty Lee with baseball. I like some of the other hires he's made. But how do you justify firing Monty Lee and then not making a change at basketball? This was a mistake by the AD, and it's going to bite this program because we're going to be in this exact same spot next year when they have a really bad year or worse than what they were this year, and you're going to have to fire him then. Or if you don't fire him then, how can you even be taken seriously as an athletic department? How can you be taken seriously as an athletic director when you've done what he's done the past couple of years with baseball and now basketball? You really can't. So it's a really bad situation right now. I don't see how it gets any better moving forward until there is a change in the leadership with the program. And I don't know when that's going to happen based off what we saw this past week with Graham Neff.
You know, one more thought just to close this out. There's plenty of news out there that this athletics department is looking for additional revenue sources, worried about falling behind other programs and other conferences when it comes to money. Hey, men's basketball can be a revenue sport. For sure, it is at a good number of schools, but not when the team is underperforming like this one is. Certainly not when it isn't reaching the NCAA tournament and you get such low attendance for an NIT game, fewer than 3,000 people showing up, ending a season that, again, showed so much promise. That's certainly not a path to bringing big bucks into the athletic department in a way that it's trying to figure out. So it'll be fascinating to watch what happens next year. Watch Clemson try to take another step forward under Brad Brownell. And if it doesn't take that step forward, what is the decision process going to be then?
Perhaps mercifully, we will shift topics. Check out our homepage, clemsonkickoff.com. You can hear what we've said in the past about basketball and all the major Clemson sports. Let's move into football. We've been doing reviews position by position of the 2022 season. We'll flip over to the offensive side of the ball now and get into wide receivers. This is a group that had a bunch of talent last year, ended up being led by a true freshman, a fall enrollee at that, in Antonio Williams. Part of that is because the group was riddled with injuries in recent years, and that continued in 2022. Part of it was just that Williams was a natural.
I had as much fun watching Antonio Williams play as I can remember a guy playing as a freshman at Clemson in a long time. I loved what he brought to the program, loved the weapon that he became, and how they used him. I mean, I think they used him the right way, and they got him the ball as much as they could. And I think that was the right thing to do, because there really weren't many other options at receiver in 2022. I can't wait to see what he's going to be in this new offense. I think it's really exciting to think about how Garrett Riley is going to use him and what Tyler Grisham can continue to do with him as they continue to grow together. But I thought Antonio was, we talk about Will Shipley and Phil Maffa being the two best players on offense. I thought Antonio Williams was right there with them, and can't wait to see what he's going to be moving forward. But he had a great year as a true freshman, had some big moments, and really was a key piece to the puzzle for this team in 2022.
Led the team with 56 catches and 604 yards, again, without the benefit of spring football at that. So I am encouraged, work a little more with Tyler Grisham. Jeff Scott is back on campus. Garrett Riley, the new offensive coordinator, is going to simplify some of the route trees. So to get him out of just, hey, go be effective, and to actually be able to refine his knowledge of what Clemson is doing, that ought to be a big deal, and you'd love to see him take a step forward. Probably the second best receiver last year, Joseph Ngata, will not be back. He has gone to the NFL. It's been interesting to see some of his comments out there this past week during Pro Day. I don't know if those are behind a paywall or not, but they were reported in a couple of different places. I won't go into the details, but maybe a little bit of waffling on would he have liked to be back at Clemson. Maybe it's just more that he knows he's going to miss Clemson. Hard to say which. Ngata, 526 yards, 41 catches, and stayed healthy. And you really love to see that. And you hope that he is able to flip that into an NFL career.
It was nice to see him be healthy. And was he great? No, but I thought he was solid. And I thought he had a good year. There weren't as many drops as we had seen in the past. And he was just out there. And he was available. And I thought that was a huge piece for him. That was nice to see him at least be on the field and be able to contribute. And he had some good moments, played well in the ACC championship game, and had some other good moments throughout the season as well. I thought he was probably the one positive of the Orange Bowl. He played really well in that game when some other guys did not. So good for him to get healthy, and hopefully, like you said, he can carry that over into an NFL career.
We'll go ahead and mention the tight ends too. And if you've told me before the year that Davis Allen would have the third most yards receiving on the team, I probably would have believed that. If you'd have told me he was tied for the lead in receiving touchdowns, I probably would have believed that. I would not have thought it would be at the expense of someone as good as Bo Collins. I would not have thought that the touchdown total would only be 5 yards. I certainly would not have thought that Clemson's third leading individual receiving total would be 443 yards. Thank goodness for Davis Allen. Also leaving, you also hope he's going to have a big NFL career.
I think he will, Bill. It feels like to me he's the prototype for what an NFL tight end should be. I mean, he can really get open, he can catch the ball, and he can block, and he can be part of the running game as well, up front. So I think Davis Allen is going to have a good career in the NFL. Can't wait to see what he becomes. I'd love to see my 49ers draft him and pair him up with George Kittle. I think that would be a great move. But Davis Allen had a good career. He was solid throughout. He was terrific at times, and had a really good 2022.
Bo Collins next on the receiving yardage list, 373 yards, tied with Allen, 5 touchdowns. Only 10 games out of 14, missed a few with injury. You'd love to see Collins bounce back and maybe even be a primary guy. He sure does project to start next year. You would think that would maybe be Collins, Williams, Adam Randall, and who knows if there's going to be a full fourth receiver or if you're going to consider the tight end the fourth receiver, which would be Jake Briningstool. So much talent in this room. Riley's going to have a chance to sort it all out. We'll get something of a glimpse of it in the spring game, but also some guys are missing some spring snaps. So I don't think we'll have a true reflection, really, until the team takes the field in September against Duke for the regular season opener.
Probably not. And there's so much change going on right now, too, with the new offense. So I would really say let's wait and see this fall what these receivers will be, because there's so much unknown as far as injuries and who's healthy and who's not and all that, and the new offense. I think all that stuff has to be taken into account.
A lot of hope for Adam Randall as a sophomore coming in next year. He also is missing some time in the spring with his other knee that had a smaller injury than the ACL that kept him out of a lot of games early in the year. As I've mentioned a few times, they targeted him in key situations down the stretch. Only had 10 catches for 128 yards, but I think his impact in the room was bigger than the numbers show. And then you also had another freshman in Cole Turner emerge very late in the year, only played 3 games, had a beautiful catch in the ACC championship game. Ton of potential there for the young guys. You hope that they're going to build on what they did. Maybe the simplification of the route trees under Riley is going to give them a chance to maybe lock in, do a little better, get a little better grasp of where they should be, and then maybe fewer distractions, because you had a couple of guys in EJ Williams and Dakari Collins transfer out. Hopefully this group stays committed. They see hope in what's being done. They see, hey, this is just the first year and we're already better. Imagine how much better we'll be in a second year of this. And you'll have guys focused on Clemson more than themselves.
You would hope so. And Bill, I'm really excited to see these freshmen. I mean, what they become as sophomores. And we've talked about Antonio and you talked about Adam. Cole Turner, I really believe he can be a key player in this offense. He did have a couple of big-time catches at the end of the season. And just we saw a couple of little flashes of maybe of what he can be moving forward.
Be sure to subscribe to us or follow on your favorite podcast app or at youtube.com/Clemson Kickoff. Let's mention baseball a little bit before we go. The Tigers did go unbeaten last week, although that did include trailing 8-2 at one point to Georgia State. Hopefully that's part of a springboard to kind of get them into the shape they need to be in and hold off future challenges. Followed that up with a midweek win over College of Charleston, maybe a little closer than it should have been. Hopefully they get a few days now before they go into Friday's game to really sort out where they need to make some improvement and how they can avoid some of these close calls that maybe shouldn't be.
It feels like they're probably about where we would have thought they would have been going into ACC play with the new coaching staff coming in and what this program has been the past couple of years. It really felt like it was going to be, take some time and be a little bit of a struggle for the new staff to get rolling. But maybe that win over Georgia State is something that can kind of kickstart a good finish to this season and a solid season for Eric Bakich in his first year. I know that they lost the series to South Carolina and that got ugly, but this team can get better throughout the year. And some of these wins are closer than you want them to be, like you said. But really, Bill, in this first year with this staff, isn't it just about winning as many games as possible and getting better? I know they're not going to blow out a bunch of people. The talent is mostly the same as it has been the last couple of years. But it feels like maybe they're starting to turn a corner a little bit, at least on how they're playing the game.
You do want to see them make the tournament. You do want to see them in the conversation to host because of the financial benefit that Clemson can bring to the NCAA. So you want them to hopefully be a 1 seed or a high 2 where it can be justified to have games at Clemson. You don't want them falling victim to the same thing that we've seen with basketball, right? Some of the early season games that they lost that they shouldn't have, ending up costing them that opportunity in the end. However, a longer season with baseball definitely more to clean up, I think, with this baseball team compared to last year, as you alluded to. We'll see how it goes from here on out. And we're starting to get a little bit of an emergence from Tristan Smith, maybe contributing to the rotation in a way that will elevate the guys around him as well.
Yeah, they got to figure out the rotation. And I like what I've seen from Tristan. The talent is there. I think it's undeniable. It'd be nice to see him go a little bit deeper in games, but that'll come as the season goes along. Cam Canarella has been terrific in the lineup. I really like the move of him to the top of the lineup to give you a true leadoff hitter. I thought that was a terrific move by this coaching staff. They've made some other tweaks to the lineup that I think will help this team moving forward. Getting rid of some of the strikeouts will be a big piece. But I like what they're doing so far. And look, this Friday, ACC play starts against Duke. So it really kind of gets real coming up Friday night.
We'll keep you posted on the baseball team as well as these softball teams, still with only one loss, as we mentioned last time. A couple of big series coming up this weekend. We'll keep you posted on the NIT progress. We'll keep you posted on the NIT, the top-seeded men, and also the women's team in the NIT as well. And we'll continue our position-by-position review of 2022. And, of course, if any major news breaks out during spring practice, we'll get into that as well. Until our next episode, I'm Bill Zimmerman.
I'm Daniel Shirley. Go Tigers.